Hello. My name is Liku Amadi, founder and attorney of Anasa Law Firm, where I work with consultants and expert service providers to help them establish a solid legal foundation in business. And a huge part of that is your contracts. Your contracts you should have a contract for every business relationship, but more particularly for your client relationships, which is what we are going to talk about today, because that is your moneymaker, right? You're in business to make money, and you won't be making money without your clients. So those client contracts really need to be tight. And as a consultant or professional service provider, I am going to let you know some of the things that you should have in mind before signing your next client agreement, just so that you can think about contracts a little bit differently. They are way more than just checking that box and something to sign or initial before you bring on your next client and they pay you so you can start providing services, right? It's just not something that you can bypass. It is something that is going to not only protect you as a business owner, as a service provider, it is also a tool that you can leverage to build a stellar client experience. So let's make sure these contracts are intact. So we'll talk a little bit about some foundation, which is number one. Your client contracts are the foundation of your client relationships, point blank, period. When you have any relationship and you think about the dynamics, right? This is what's allowed, this is what's not allowed, this is how I'm supposed to act, this is not how you're supposed to act. These are the boundaries, these are the terms and conditions. Those are the terms and conditions, right? And if you have family, romantic, personal relationships, of course, it's not written down in the contract. But for anybody you're doing business with, particularly those clients, those customers, those people who are paying you, they need to be written down because they are investing in your service, and they need to know what's going to go down and how that's going to go down in order for you to deliver that service. And you need to be on the same page when it comes to that as well. Your contracts are the foundation of any relationship. I'm gonna keep stressing that you have in your business. But for your client, they want to be led, they want to be told what to do. They don't want to have to assume, and you should have a contract that clarifies all of the terms and conditions for them. I know there are those situations that come up that we didn't anticipate or are one in a million or a surprise. Your contract should still cover those too, but that's a different live for another day. Right now, we're just talking about it being the foundation of your client relationship, the place where both of you can look and say, hey, this is what we do when XYZ happens. When we have a dispute, this is how we resolve the dispute. Oh, I'm paying in installments. These are the terms and conditions around paying in installments. These are the rules. These are the boundaries. These are the expectations, right? Your client contract is the foundation of your relationship. Without a foundation, things fall through the crack. Things get messed up, lost in communication, and it makes for a sour client experience, or a client experience that just could have been better. And your business operations could have also been a lot smoother. So before you sign your next client, think about your client contract as the foundation, the bridge to bring you two together for that client relationship, because that is the role of your contract. And if that's not how you're viewing your contract, if you're like, it's just 5 pages that I need them to sign real quick so we can get to work, then you need to continue to tune into my lives, because we're definitely going to be breaking these down a lot more. If you are in the building live, go ahead and drop a comment, say hello, tell me what you do in the comments. Where are you tuning in from? I'm in the Bay Area. It's noon, 12:40 PST over here. So that is what time we are on. That was number one, foundations of a client relationship. Number two, your consulting client agreement should position you as a leader. So before you sign your next client with your client contract, you should feel that your contract positions you as a leader. And what that means is your contract allows you to lead your clients in the relationship. It's not enough that you are an expert in whatever you do. Yes, I know you are good at what you do. You got the certificates, you got the degrees, and people are paying you for your expertise. However, there is a customer service element to this as well, right? Client experience is hugely important. And while you're delivering your services, how you deliver those services matters, right? All the things around the actual services matter. So you need to be able to lead your client through that client journey. This is part one. This is phase one. This is when we do this. This is what I need from you. This is my part to do that. This is where we research, right? When this happens, this is how we resolve it. You need to be the one to know your contract like the back of your hand. Yes, your client signed it. Yes, they read through it, but it is your job to make sure that those terms stay intact. And that means you following what you put in your client's agreement for both of you to agree on. As the leader of the client relationship, you should be able to lead your client through whatever service it is that you are providing for them in that consultant relationship. And if you don't feel like your contract does that, before you sign your next client, you need to continue to tune into these lives and check out my content, because we are going to be breaking things down a lot further. Number one, foundation. Your client contract is a foundation of your client relationships. And number two, your client contract should position you to lead the client relationship. There should be no confusion as to who is running this. We know who's providing service. We know who's providing the service, which is you. We know who is paying for the service, which is your client. But the leader of the client relationship, to facilitate this entire dynamic and to lead in the client experience, is you as a consultant, as an expert service provider. Are you picking up what I am putting down? Let me know in the comments. Number three, before you sign your next client using your consulting or service provider contract, you need to have the utmost clarity in your offer. What exactly does that mean? That means no assumptions. There can be questions, but you need to be able to answer those questions because you already know the answer, right? No ambiguous terms or just open-ended language. You want to be very precise with the language that you are using, the terms, the phrases that you are using in the service that you're providing, in that offer. Because if something is left up to interpretation in your head, right? We get caught up sometimes and I'm speaking, I know legal jargon, and I'm like, IP, yeah, protect your IP. Someone the other day was like, what's IP? Even though they just said intellectual property, my legal brain was like, my bad, I meant intellectual property as well, right? We don't want to leave things open for assumption, especially because we are experts. So break down what you mean so the client can understand it. And if they have questions, you will be able to clarify it for them. Lack of clarity in your offer could lead to so many just assumptions and misunderstandings, which could lead to miscommunications and different expectations on both ends of the client relationship, both from you and your client. And that's not something that you want when people are investing 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 figures in your services. That's just not something that should be happening. So in order to collect that investment, in order to sign that client, you want to make sure that they are very, very clear on what you are going to do for them. This is also a form of establishing boundaries, which is a whole nother line for another day with your client relationship, right? Because they know what to expect from you, what you will do, what you won't do, how long you're going to do it, what it means when you say assess or analysis or break down. I saw an offer one day. Oh my God, what did it say? I saw an offer. I've seen multiple offers like this, I believe, in the coaching space that say, we're going to work with you until you reach XYZ goal. And that just leaves so many things open in the air. What I'm assuming is, as someone who just had a baby and came off maternity leave, if I, start working with you in January and I thought I was going to hit XYZ in February before I went on maternity leave, but now we're skipping that whole 3 months of maternity leave. When I come back in June, it should be okay, right? Because I still haven't hit XYZ, whatever that point was. But on your end, as a service provider, you're probably thinking, It's been a little too long that we've been working on these assignments or this campaign or this project, right? We need to wrap things up. You're probably going to be looking at your contract like, or your offer like, we need to tighten this up. What does it really mean when we say this, right? Or maybe we shouldn't be so open-ended and general with that language, because again, if I invest in those services and I come back after maternity leave, like, all right, I'm ready to get back to it, you may be on a whole different page. Your business may have shifted during that time, and maybe you no longer offer what I paid for, and you still have to deliver that to me based on your loosely drafted terms and conditions and based on your unclear service offering. Clarity in your offer will only do you good. It might take a minute for you to get to the utmost clarity, right? Because again, we're working from our own brains where we understand what that means. And if that's you in your position, if you are looking at your offer right now, like, yeah, I know exactly what's going to happen. Like, all of this seems clear. Have someone else read your offer. That is what I always say. Have someone who is not a professional like yourself, not in your industry, read your offer and see if they have any questions about what you're doing for them and how you're doing it. See if you can answer those questions, and then think about, from that conversation, what can I take to make my contract a little more clear so that the client who reads and signs it next doesn't have as many questions when they're going through it, right? So you want to be as clear as possible, and that means the other person can understand it. Again, it's okay to have questions because people just want to clarify, but you do need to be able to clarify that. So, oh my goodness, I can talk so much about clarity. I um, had a client where we were supposed to work together for 2 months. We estimated, right? They needed their contract in 2 months, I should say. But we spent a month going back and forth about the services. Those service packages changed after we talked about the clarity in them, and after I asked clarifying questions. And how is this part of your service going to be delivered, right? All of those things matter. What does this actually look like in reality? Or does it just sound good, right? You need to have those things clarified, solid, and as clear as possible before you move forward and take people's money. It'll be way easier to do business once all of that is clear. And you'll have more confidence to stand in your offer because you know exactly what you're doing. And that benefits you when you are drafting contracts, drafting content, and working on your messaging and marketing and talking to people about your offers. So the utmost clarity in your services is required. And when you have a thoroughly tailored, drafted contract for yourself, you are going to recognize that, man, I can't get the most out of my contract because my services aren't clear. And we don't want that. So if you are about to sign your next client and you're looking like, my service could be a little more clear, I'm not really sure, maybe I can tweak it here, maybe I should talk to someone outside of my industry and see if they understand it, right? Make those changes. Continue to follow my content and see how you can better clarify, or better yet, let's work together, which you already know is available to you. And I am happy to take the time to walk through how we can further clarify your offer, what it says, what you do, and what the reality of that content means in executing your services. That was number 3. Number 4. Hello. Number 4. Um, this is also where you communicate your policies, your client policies. So if you are about to sign your next client and you're looking at your contract like, I'm not sure which one of these are client policies, or you don't have any client policies, that's a problem, because you want to be able to communicate to your client how it is that they're supposed to work with you, and that's the purpose of the contract. So when I say client policies, I'm talking about communication, how and when and where, and all of those things that they're supposed to communicate with you. So communication is the most efficient on both ends. When I'm talking about client policies, I'm talking about payment policies and payment plans or installments and refunds. And that's also another video for another day. But that is one of the client's responsibilities is to pay you and pay you on time. So what is the policy around making sure that happens? And when that doesn't happen, what's the policy around there? What is the rule, if you will, right? Think about it like as rules. Think about it as boundaries as well. I'm gonna get into that. But what is supposed to happen in that circumstance? What is the policy around making changes to certain services or the scope of work? What is the policy around extending the time frame that you are supposed to work together, right? What are all the rules around that stuff? You're supposed to be making it up as the leader in the client relationship, as the person who is facilitating the client relationship to make sure that the person that you're working with gets their investment. Client policies go a long way because they also communicate your boundaries, right? Let's go back to communication policy. For example, if your communication policy is, hey, only contact me via email, I'll get back to you within 3 business days. Here's where else you can find other information if you need it, or contact this other person if there is an emergency. Like, that's clear, right? That's clear that your boundaries are that you're going to respond to them within a certain time frame, so that they have the expectation that, okay, they can get back to me within this time frame. That's cool. That works for me. Versus your client sitting there and being like, oh my God, I just emailed them 7 minutes ago and they haven't gotten back to me. Like, what's going on? I need them to talk to me faster, right? It sets expectations as to what's supposed to happen in the client relationship. And if there is an emergency, you have a contact line or a person for them to reach out to in those circumstances, right? You want to create those boundaries, those expectations. It's not just telling the client, do this, do it this way. It is literally forming the structure around your client relationship. And that is something that you want. So you're not in a position where you are going through miscommunications, misunderstandings, passive aggressive behavior, and also dealing with disputes that you didn't have to deal with, trying to backtrack something or clarify something when it's already happened, right? Those are frustrating positions to be in, and it puts you in this space of like, I don't know if I should have done that as a service provider. And the client is looking at you like, what's going on, right? I gave them all of this money, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 figures, and I'm expecting them to lead me through this process. Like, what are the rules around this? What do we do? They're looking at you, which is why you need those policies in place. So if you are about to sign your next client and you're looking at your contract like, I'm not sure where these policies are. I don't know if I have the policies that I need in order to effectively and efficiently facilitate this client relationship and make for a stellar client experience. Then we need to talk. Hit me in the DMs or book a consultation so that we can make sure your contract is intact for those next, not 1, not 2, but 3, 4, and 5 clients that you're going to sign. Because as an expert who is good at what they do, you are going to have those clients lining up at the door. And it is not going to feel good to bring them into your business, to bring them into your space, to bring them into your care if the foundation of your client relationship, which is that client contract, is not intact. Again, those 4 things. You want to make sure your client contract is the foundation of your client relationships. Always keep that in mind. You want to make sure, number 2, that your contract positions you as the leader, as the person who is going to be leading and guiding your client through this client relationship while you give them what they pay for. Number 3, you want to ensure that your client contract has the utmost clarity with regard to the services that you offer. So it is very clear to you and your client what you do, what you don't do, and everything else in between. And then lastly, you want to ensure that you communicate your client policies, because those set the rules, expectations, and boundaries as to how that client is supposed to work with you in your business to get what they need. Let me know in the comments if any of these things was helpful, if any of these things changed your mind, because again, we want to look at our client contracts as a shield to protect us and a tool that we can leverage for the best clients experience when clients invest in you. It is not just a box to check before you move on to work with someone and they pay you for that work. If you need help, I am here. I am available. My name is Liku, founder and attorney of Anasa Law Firm. Reach out to me via the DMs or let me know in the comments if you'd like to book a consultation, or you can use the link, wherever it is up in my bio, to go ahead and get on my calendar so we can talk about what upgrading that client contract looks for you and your consulting business. All right. That is what I have for you today. And I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back because the baby is knocked out and she did not wake up. So this was a good live. All right. See y'all next time.